Okay, so we're live. Welcome to an episode of Health Ignited with Dr. Nick and Sonya Jensen. And we're here with two of some of our favorite people in the world, people who graced our lives actually probably,
Almost
10 years ago.
I think. Yeah.
And this beautiful woman named Patricia came into our lives.
Radiant.
Works in the movie industry, had all sorts of amazing insight. We found ourselves just kind of hooking her up to IVs or having conversations and just wanting to hang out with her all day.
Yeah, the phones would be ringing, people would be coming in, and we'd be like mesmerized by our conversations.
Yeah. So they have a company, right?
Evolution of the Heart.
Yeah. And they're helping people all over the world actually wake up. They do retreats all over the world. They do one-on-one consults in person sometimes. Obviously right now everything is online. And they hold weekend workshops very often too.
And what I love what they're doing right now on Instagram is the study of love for 365 days. So every day you get to be elevated just by watching them and their posts, because they're all about elevation.
Yeah. And you know, for patients that really are not patients, just people in general that need that access, that freedom, that willingness, as it says on their fireplace mantle right now, how deep is your yes? People who are ready to wake up, these are the people you want to go speak to. So Bill and Patricia, thank you so much for being in our lives and for being on the call. We didn't actually introduce Bill. We talked about Patricia. So let's talk about Bill a little bit.
They're one.
Yeah, they are one.
We are actually.
Yeah, that's right. And we met Bill through Patricia, and Bill's been amazing for me because Bill's been mentoring Nick.
Yes.
So in that work, it's really helped our relationship. So thank you for being there for him. Because I think, men need mentors that are other men and strong and steady and, living it to lead it and being there with their presence. And Bill really, when he walks into a room, you feel his presence, which is amazing.
And he always knows what you're going through too.
That's right. There was this nugget that he once said to me that has always stuck out, and I don't even know if he knows this. And we use this in our staff meetings all the time. And he was sitting in our waiting room one day, and he's like, every person that walks through this door, you want to treat them as if God has walked in. And that has stuck with me for so long, and I use it all the time in our staff meetings, and it's kind of our motto. It's like that person that we get to serve is just such a privilege, and that's how you have to navigate when you're sitting in that seat of doctor or helper or healer or anything.
So welcome to the show, you guys.
Hi.
You just knocked me in my heart by that one. Oh my God, I said that.
You did.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yes.
Well, you guys do so many amazing things for people like I said, all over the world. And so we want to hear your love story. Tell us how you guys ran into each other, met, and how you went from where you were to where you are.
Yeah, so I'm kind of, I talk in circles a little bit. When we first met, it was 15 years ago, and we didn't realize, we didn't have an intention or a goal set to be doing what we are doing now today. It birthed through us, a very lived experience independently, and then when we came together, and over time it created what we offer now. So we met through a friend, and it was really by chance. So I'm from Canada and Bill's from California, San Diego. We had a mutual friend that was up here in Canada, and she was moving back to California. I was in the middle 15 years ago. My children were little. I was doing this rather new thing 15 years ago called co-parenting. So there was a lot of, potholes on the road. It was very, still something being worked out in our community, independent, personally, plus in our community. And so by whim, our friend invited me to go to, she's quite a character. And she said, Patricia, would you drive down in the car with me with my 2 cats and drive down and then I'll pay for your flight home. So I said yes, and we had a 3 or 4 day adventure. And then when we got to San Diego, she said, oh, why don't you, maybe my friend who's called Bill, we'll take you on a horse ride. He has horses. And so at that point in myself personally, I just want to say that I had let go of my idea of what relationship was. I had been through a divorce. I had been through, a couple of other relationships, and I had not been in relationship for almost a year. And for me, that was really surrendering into my time and discovering who I was. I realized at that point that there was so much of me more to discover. What did relationship look like for me? And it wasn't this or that. I was in my early 40s, so there were so many changes inside. And I knew I didn't want to depend on or go back to what I knew relationship to be. I wanted it to keep moving. So what actually happened was it was in March in San Diego in California, and it hailed, which is very unusual at that time. And so we couldn't go horseback riding. So they decided that we would just all meet at a restaurant. And so when I met Bill, I could feel his presence. And I was just beginning to really surrender into prayer, and what we offer now, I was just beginning to surrender into it. So when I met him, I was like, wow, a lot of presence, like very grounded, very masculine, very grounded presence. And then I actually was with him, and I noticed everything else was fading away. It was just me and him in presence. And I got up and I went into the bathroom, and I was like, okay, Patricia, don't be aloof. Don't give too much, because that had been a pattern of me to overgive. And so I was like, you like him, and also be open to someone like this in your life in the future. A partner like this that feels this way in the future. So all my attention wasn't on someone I didn't even know, right? So I had that little talk, and then I came back. And then, whenever a woman tells a story, and then whenever her partner tells a story, they're all a bit different.
Yeah.
So
let's hear it.
Yeah.
Well, I've been on this path for a long time. I feel like it started when I was 9 years old. And I was always a very sensitive being. And my father, it's just interesting, he would always say, I'd be really happy. And he said, son, never be too happy. Okay, Dad. Then I'd come back from the playground. We lived in military homes for a long time and Navy bases. And he says, son, don't be too sad. So my emotional body was kind of compressed, and yet here I was, this sensitive light being, and just kind of suppressed that within myself for so long. And then, I just was on this searching. Anyway, it brought me through a couple marriages, and finally to the place of where my last relationship, I was with this person 2 years. She was my first conscious relationship, and that ended. And we ended it consciously. And the pain of that was so profound that I didn't know if I'd recover from it. The grief was so deep. And I didn't know what the lesson was at that time. It's just that, for many years I floated from relationship to relationship. So I never had to do my work, because I just floated above in that, what I call the hyper consciousness, of where you're having awareness, but it doesn't have the depth to take you home to your heart. And my mentor said, you need to stay out of relationship for a year. And in your prayer, this is what I'm inviting you to pray for, is for God to bring your divine relationship, your divine reflection of where you are and where your heart wants to go. And so that was my prayer. And in that moment, I was laying flat on my back. I had a vision, and I saw a woman with long dark hair. Couldn't see her face, and that was in November. That was like, we met March 13th. And when I saw Patricia at first, I said to her, well, how old are you? She says, well, I'm 41. I says, well, number one, you're too young. for me. And she looked at me. I mean, she just looked so elegant, you know, I mean, beautiful woman. And I just saw her essence. And well, she responds back, I'm a very mature woman.
Mm.
And I was stunned. So I went to the bathroom to talk to myself and look in the mirror, Bill, something's moving here, you know, like, wow, something just stirred within me. And I felt that was my prayer beginning to unfold. I just didn't expect it to be somebody, well, actually, it's not 15, it might be 17 or 18 years younger.
Mm.
And the following day, we went to a restaurant on the beach. It's really lovely. If you ever come there, it's called the Poseidon in Del Mar. It's right on the beach. And I was sitting there with her, and a former girl that I kind of wasn't dating, but saw her now and then came up, and I says, don't you have something to do? Like you have kids at home or something? Because I was sitting next to Patricia. And in that moment, I decided, when I looked in her eyes, I put my hand on her lap and said, you're the woman I want.
Oh.
You just knew.
Yeah. I was willing to take the leap of faith, whether it was a yes or a no. I was willing to take that leap of faith and just express.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
then,
beautiful.
And then the next day I left and I didn't give him my phone number. Like, you know, we live in 2 different countries. There is an age gap for us to, and I'm into monogamous relationships. That's just what feeds my heart. And I like the commitment of long-term relationships. It really is good for me as a person. And so for me at that time, I just said, you know, I was like, he'll find my number, and you know, and I want a man that is so sure in it that a border and finding a phone number is more like a green light than a red light. Someone with that much. And he did.
Yeah, he's resourceful.
Yeah. And he came up like about 2 weeks later.
Wow.
For a little while, you know, I didn't have him in my home because I said my boys were little, and I just wanted to really make sure that we had a lot of similar. So he would come here, I would go there, and about 6 months into the relationship, he started meeting my boys. So we kind of integrated it slowly because they had been through a lot. And so just as much as they lived with their father for a few days and me for a few days. So he would come on the last couple of days that they were with me. So I always had like 3-4 days with just them because it was precious time then. They were so little.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can ask.
I was just gonna say, I love how both of you in the beginning, you know, before you came together, you had awarenesses that you needed to work on that self relationship first, whether it was from a mentor or you had that your own inkling of like, yes, we learn from our relationships with others, but that relationship with self is the most important piece, so you can attract that relationship that actually really elevates you. And Patricia, I've seen you evolve over the last 10 years, because I know you were trying to figure out this way of merging this thing that you guys have created now that's serving so many with the life that you had, and then you had your children and you're navigating this new relationship. And I'm just curious how during that time too, how you guys were able to evolve your relationship into what it is now by still being that independence and making sure that you're working on yourself.
Yeah, well, one of the things is about a couple of months into the relationship, we sat down. You know, there was a lot to talk about that's very practical. I had the yearning to have another baby. You know, I was still in my young 40s. Bill, that had passed him. You know, he was really in that place in life where he had raised it and he had grandchildren already that he was part of. And so for me, that really was a lot of soul searching for myself. And we really sat with it, like him wanting to give me everything I've wanted in my life, and me also knowing that that's what I would want for him. the most important thing that we talked about is actually our relationship with God or divinity, whatever your expression is, however you express it, spirit, source, and that's actually our number one relationship.
Mm.
And then we get to share this life together. And so when so when I spoke to Bill and he spoke to me, we were feeling the same, that needed to come into conversation. The other thing that happened really early in our relationship was, I was still kind of nervous around him. So I would have my half glass of wine, right? I'm sure I had my fun in my early 20s, but now 20 years later, I'm not much of a drink much. Anyway, low, whatever, threshold. But so I would have my glass of wine because I was so nervous around him. And then about a week, it was your first trip actually up. So the first week we were kind of together, really, just us. He had suggested that we don't drink, that we actually get to know each other without even like a glass of wine, that we do other things. And that really supported us, because through time, what we witnessed is that even our interest in having a glass of wine or interest in any of that just faded. It wasn't hard or forced. It was just, for us, what was more important is our connection with self and our connection with each other. And then the other thing, I'm going to speak in a second. I have one more thing to say. Another thing is that we both, not only our importance with honoring, so Bill honoring my relationship with God, also honoring my relationship with myself. So what I needed to keep myself growing, fed, nourished, whatever that was, in any kind of form. And the awareness in relationship is that we, at this part of our journey, we knew that how important the time was to be on, like in self-reflection with self, and the importance to be together in reflection.
Yeah, for me, that place of the grief that I was feeling after my previous relationship was the place that I was looking to find somebody to do it for me. I didn't really know what loving myself meant. I'd never heard of it. Not even all my years of being a Christian, a pastor, and all these things, I never heard of self-love. It was always that giving outside of self, that over loyal to everybody except Bill.
Yeah.
And that grief was so profound and so deep. Actually, it was showing me the depth of love I actually hold, is what grief is we love so deeply. And the belief that I was separate from God had to heal. So even in relationship, there was this deep loneliness that I would feel, and I was running from it for a long time, and there was no running anymore. And so in that place of really coming to know myself, I experienced love for self for the first time. And in relationship, if we come in looking for that person to do it for us, we'll be disappointed eventually and hurt sometime. Because if we don't learn to love ourselves and open to that place of knowing that we're not separate, a majority of relationships are basically neediness and addictive clinging. And the end result is, you can see in the past, there's been a pretty high divorce rate because they're looking for the one. There's no such thing. We are the one that we're looking for. So that had to break in me. And that's been the biggest opening for me to realize it's like the domino effect. All illusion begins to subside. And the reality, I've heard you say, I love what you said recently, is people need to do their work.
Yeah. And so many people are stuck in the reality of neediness, codependency, and not listening to that actual inner call that's there that you guys are speaking to. So I love that through your story, you're giving a really important lesson for people that tune into this call, to realize that is available for all of us. And when we constantly look outside of ourselves through our partnerships or relationships and everything else, we're never going to find what we're looking for. And I love that, like, you know, even in your conservative approach, you know, being a pastor and being indoctrinated in all the different ways that we could have through our own upbringing, you know, a different generation and whatnot. You had to go through a lot of stuff, both of you, all of us, to wake up to that reality. So
Oh, for sure.
how can you share that message to people? Like, where, like, at what point, because it's a series of points, I'm sure, where people get little awakenings. Oh, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. Is there a question to ask yourself, or is there some way to start to reflect on what's going on differently, so that you can start to make those different perspectives on how life is going? Or how do you take people from that place and move them forward?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, I want to speak a little bit about what you're saying. So in our humanity, how we learn is from contraction. So how we learn is what we don't like first.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, you know, the awakening into that we actually have a choice, that actually that there's maybe a different way, or something is stirring in us, often is painful.
Mm-hmm.
And that is only because the mind judges it, that something's wrong, or you've done something wrong, or you're broken, or you should be better at this, or you should know this. That's all the mind's conversation. So when we can get into a place where we can witness and observe what isn't working anymore, and as we can breathe into and invite self to feel, you know, in the language you use, your heart, like to feel your inner voice, and start allowing yourself and just witnessing that's a beginning. So wow, so it may look like very practically like this. Wow, when my husband said this, I noticed myself shut down in protection. I noticed that I felt like I was 4 years old again, and I didn't know what to say. So that's recognizing. So then you would perhaps, in the way that you can, in the best way you can, and it's usually very messy. It's not a linear process. It is so many layers. So in the best way that you can communicate, I'm just going to go have a bath. Example. So say she goes and has a bath, and she allows herself to feel and be with that 4-year-old that she felt in that moment, and nourish that inner 4-year-old, and listen and be there for that 4-year-old. And then allow that emotion to move, that awareness to come, whatever, nourishing, not judging, not trying to figure it out, not trying to suppress it, not trying to make it what it's not. Just keep being with it, keep being with it. Then coming back into the relationship and say, look, can we talk about when you say, I hear what you're saying, this is what I'm hearing you say. When you said this, behind that, I felt this. So I don't know if you know, but I know that when you said that, behind it, I felt the anger. And when there's anger and when you're communicating, it's very hard for me to be present to you. It's very hard for you to hear me because my inner being is scared. So right now I'm fully present. We don't have to fight about this. I want to hear what you want to say. Let's talk about it now. So in that demonstration, you can see it takes 2 willing people to be compassionate in the unknown places that are unfolding and coming into awareness. And often it's one person in that relationship, any relationship, whether it's a love relationship, a parent, sibling, parents, brother, sister, brother. Often in reality, it's one person in the beginning that's getting the awarenesses. So, and what we see, the beauty of that is that there is always one heart in a community that hears a deeper yes, that's willing to do the work for themselves first.
Yeah.
And then it reflects in the family. So, for instance, both of you, both of us, all of us are, we have this strong connection with divinity. Yeah, we're open to unwinding, unraveling. Yes, yes, yes. So people, and there's others out on the planet, right? Where both the partners are willing, both the partners are a yes. Everything's going to come up really quickly.
Yep.
Like this time, especially, is going to be an intensive retreat. Like this time, the pressure cooker with everything that's happening globally right now on the planet, the pressure cooker is up. The fire is turned up. And it's not a time to keep trying to run. There's nowhere to go. It is a time to sit in the fire. It's a sacred time.
As far as transformation too. Right?
Inner.
That's what that allows.
Absolutely. Inner transformation. Like, you know, Mother Earth, the universe has all put us in our room.
Yeah.
You get a time out, and we want you to think about and feel where you're disconnected, and feel where you forgot love. You are, and feel where you forgot how powerful you are in your inner being.
Love that. Bill, I know you got something to add there.
Yeah.
I know.
No, I'm just thinking, everybody just take a breath. Wow. Because sometimes,
so
in the depth, it starts getting, there's a gravity to it, but yet there's also that place of where we've got to open to this, our heart that really knows what to do. And I just notice in relationship over the years, it's an acceleration of consciousness. And so for me, when there's unintegrated emotion, the first place I go to is anger. It's just in me, it probably is a lineage thing. And so in that place of sometimes I just so want to blame Patricia. I've got all the evidence. I've done my attorney work. And I just know it's her. And yet underneath, she'll just look at me, Bill, can I put my hand over your heart? And usually I don't want her to, but I'll. And she does. She said, what's really happening there? And I says, baby, I just want to blame you so much. And I know it's not you. Coming along far enough in this, I know it's not you. She says, take a breath and breathe. And then boom, something comes up from when I was 18 years old. A trauma that I had long forgotten. And the tears would just come, that healing would come in for me. So underneath that, there's always something, a movement, that anger. And yet there's a place, there's an edge to anger where it's our divinity opening us. The shell has to be cracked in that egg for us to eventually open into the depth of our heart. We're never breaking inward, really. We always, when our heart breaks, we're breaking open so that we can receive. And that's what happened in that depth of grief through relationship that I experienced, was the birth of me coming to know and to truly love myself, and knowing that I'm not separate from my divinity. And so in the place of our relationship, we don't come on the basis of need or want. We come from the place of the depth of our own hearts coming together in this union that's divine, and it expresses in our work. And so that's the beauty of it. It's that coming together and I call it coming back home to what's already there. There's nothing to search for because it's already within us. It's just unfolding as it unfolds and unravels. Yeah.
Yeah, and those very human moments of need and want, it is actually, we have surrendered it to be just like these guideposts, that there's deeper movement happening in us. So if any old behavior starts to surface, or that feeling that something's kind of off, we just have been along the road now, been on our knees enough that we consider it like, wow, an opportunity to sit still. Right? And the humor of it too, like, Bill, what he was talking about, if I want to blame Patricia. I mean, how that's very real as a human. When we're hurting, we want to lash out.
Yeah.
It's a natural defense. And there's nothing, it's not good or bad, right or wrong. It just is. We're all human.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we've just found a way to be in the humor of it.
Mm-hmm.
And also be willing to look closer, look deeper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I was gonna just say a few of the nuggets that I'm getting from both of you and sharing your stories is that pause is so important in the moment,
Yeah.
so that you can give yourself that moment to reflect instead of reacting. You can then respond afterwards. And then there's also, between the two of you, you have this physical tool, placing your hand over each other's hearts. So
Yeah.
like if all of us in a relationship could have a tool like that, where we know that's the immediate signal of like, okay, you can let go of the ego, the mind, and all of that. It's safe to sink into your heart, and it's safe to be vulnerable. Because I think that's also the missing link in a lot of relationship, where those triggers show up and we go back into that 4-year-old space and we don't feel safe.
Yeah.
So if that zone isn't feeling safe, but if we have something like that tool that allows us to just melt into that space, then we can actually be open. And I love what Bill said about when your heart's feeling like it's breaking, it's not breaking inwards, you're now breaking open.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you're able to feel the grief, you're able to feel the anger, you're able to feel the guilt, the shame, and all that, and move through it, because now you're open to receiving the love too.
Yeah.
And so how do you do that in like today's time, with everything that's happening, and we're all sensitive beings and open with our hearts and feeling everyone's pains and everyone's grief that they're going through? Like, how do you manage that energy?
Well, yeah, those are awesome questions. There's a few in there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to give you quite a morsel here. So the practices that we really support people in: drinking water, moving the body, journaling, breathing into and with whatever emotion is moving. And some emotion, it wants movement. So go ahead and put on the drums and jump and grab a pillow and punch the anger. And it doesn't have to be about someone. You can actually just feel pure rage. And that rage is what Bill was talking about, is tapping into divinity and the earth consciousness right now. So there's a lot of opportunities for those with a willing heart and available and are a yes to jump in and help break up some of those emotions and movements happening on the planet. The other thing is, as your heart becomes more clear, one of the clearing of the heart is feeling responsible. So as people that love a lot and give a lot and care a lot, people like yourselves and other healers, teachers, parents, often what we'll do is we'll feel responsible for the other's pain. So what's happening is we're actually, we're invited to a wider embrace of that. So instead of feeling responsible, to be in the space where we're clear and we're in witness, and we're witnessing another's pain as if they're birthing into themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes time to clear that. It's like if your 4-year-old's having a tantrum, you're a parent, you just sit and wait it out. If we were to stop that tantrum, we're interrupting with their emotional process. Or a 2-year-old, unless they're hurting themselves or another, right? That's common sense. And we can still let, if our 4-year-old's having a tantrum, we're all in a home together, saying it's directed at someone. This is where the guidance comes in. We redirect them, give them a pillow, punch the pillow. Be angry with that. Let's do it. I'm going to do it too. I'm going to be angry too. Like hold people in whatever's moving at that time. When our hearts can clear and we move from feeling responsible, that actually allows the grace. So the magic of the universe, none of us really know the weight of that or the gravity of that, begins to work with another. And they find their way. And we don't have to feel the weight or the burden of responsibility. And sometimes when we're givers and healers and lovers of heart, we really, really, really want to support people. What we've witnessed and what we speak into is another can't want it more than they want it. You can't want it more than they want it for themselves. Because once you start doing that, you're getting kind of in creation's business on a higher level. So one of the other conversations we have is the practice of non-interference. So the moment I'm leaning into another, feeling responsible, allow self to draw that energy all the way back and spend time with one's own heart. There's something that's wanting to move in there. There's something that wants more freedom, more expression, more letting go. And in that expression of that movement comes in that inner wisdom or knowing. I took my mom on a cruise last year. And she's a very bright mind, and she had a lot of physical things going on, and got to a point where it was hard for her. She has I forget what
scoliosis.
Thank you. Yeah, and her spine is bent, so it takes a lot of energy to lift her spine. She now needs a walker. So what was happening is, what I was witnessing just in her is, it was so much effort for her physically, and she lived alone, that just slowly over time, through many different things, she had many, many different health challenges. She kind of lost it felt that she kind of lost her will to move. Her mind moved. Her body had been through a lot of pain, years of it. So during the cruise, we did physical movement, and we spoke of it. And we did it together, and I would tease her. I said I'm her coach, and I was able to be with her. I was able to be with my mom in a lot of pain, but knowing that she needed to feel how her leg felt in the water, and not try to stop her from feeling that. That's just an example. I know this is tough, Mom. I'm your cheerleader. Let's get her done. And now she's with my sister right now, and my sister's walking with her. And she's like doing 7,000 steps, 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers a day.
It's amazing.
Because she discovered it for herself. If I were to try to cushion her from her physical pain, she wouldn't have that will, that want to have more mobility. She's the one right now going out walking for 2 kilometers a day. So it's very similar to the heart. It sounds practical and a little bit in the circle. It's very similar to when we get to know ourselves. It's moment to moment, breath by breath. And when we practice non-interference, any of us, even to our own child, to our husband, the person, closest to us, or children, what happens is they get the opportunity to discover it for themselves. And then it's real. We often hear people say, we really want to feel ourselves. We really want to have our own voice. Then we really have to do the work. No one else can do it for us. And I would actually be suspicious if someone believed they could. I would take another look and go, is that person really going to take me where I need to go inside right now, where I'm really ready to go? Is this person a bridge? Or is this person, am I putting myself in a position where I'm giving myself away, believing someone else can do me better?
Right. I love that.
We can do we.
So good.
Yeah.
Bill's getting a lot.
Well, it's a time where it's getting real for people. And we all know that. And it's time for us, whoever is listening, it's an invite to do our own work. And the beauty of it, some people, Bill, why do you do this work? And they're shocked at what I say. I says, I'm doing it because it frees me. I love truth, and the truth frees me inwardly. And it allows me, like some people, I'll be 73 in September. Some people that I meet that I've known since the 7th grade, they look like my grandparents. Their lives are shutting down where my life is still opening. There's that opportunity. I mean, we had a 85-year-old in our group years back. They look forward every time. What's going to happen this time, Bill? I said, I don't know. We're ready. And they were going for it. So wherever I go now, I'm usually one of the oldest now. I didn't know that would be I liked being the other side of it. And so I'm the oldest person in this breath course. And every one of them felt so inspired. Wow, Bill, you're still going for it. I says, what else is there?
Mm.
This gives me freedom. It gives me breath. It gives me life. This is life force happening in me. And, the healing, we talked about it in one of your previous, the healing of my heart was a deep introspection of seeing if I had value. And when Spirit spoke to me, God, divine intelligence, said, Bill, is there any place in life that you're holding on to any resentment or unforgiveness? And when I say that, the room really squirms. We can't move through the bottleneck consciously if we're still holding on to that. And it has very little to do with another. What if the person that hurt you the deepest was the person actually teaching you forgiveness? And, whatever else in that teaching. And so forgiveness is not about justifying what happened. It's about opening. In that moment, it's a choice that opens up infinite possibility for our humanity. We've got to go to that place and let it go.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
A lot of that happening.
Well, I love what you're saying, because when we've all been conditioned at such a young age to band-aid our symptoms, right? Like we could take everything you're teaching and talk about the reality of people not doing their work as essentially putting a band-aid on things and hoping it'll go away. And we're in a culture where there's medication for everything. There's a medication for grief, anxiety, depression. There's for pain, for everything that you guys are speaking to. And if we don't start relating to the work as essential for our soul's expression, for our own inner creativity, our vitality, our potential of what could be, we just identify with our symptoms and then we find a way to suppress them. And what you're saying is so relatable to anyone who's in a physical or chronic illness. It's like, you got to do your work. You got to allow yourself to feel that, but you don't need to reference who you are based on the feelings that you're feeling. But you do need to allow yourself to feel them so you can move through them. And beautiful information there.
Well, I think it takes it back to what you were saying before. It's you're learning from relationship, but that person that you invite into your life isn't going to fix you. It doesn't change anything for you. And even as a healer, you're allowing space for someone to figure their stuff out for themselves. And for us as parents, as you were speaking, I'm thinking about, our 5-year-old having his tantrums, and there's moments where you just want to go in there and just kind of shake them up and, you just want them to stop. But then there are times where we've just let him do that, and you see him transform.
Yes.
You see him go through the anger, and then you see him go through the sadness, and you see him come up from that because he's learned something from that transformation. So when we're feeling the aches, the pains, when we're feeling the grief, if we're continuously searching for somebody to come rescue us, we've now laid our power into somebody else's hands. So I love how you tied all that together, because it's also interconnected.
And in another language, another way to say that, we're going back to sleep. So we hear this language a lot. I want to awaken. I want to awaken. I want to self-actualize. I want to awaken. Well, you got it. You got it. And now it's happened globally. This is what everybody's been wanting. This way? No, absolutely not. People suffering in this way, this isn't what people called in yet. In our humanity, this is how we awaken. Because, we're still, even though we have these incredible minds and create brilliant things, we're still pretty low in the food chain, primitive of the universe. We're not really advanced as we like to believe we are. And that's not good or bad, right or wrong. It just is. It's just the time and creation right now. So, anywhere that we feel separate, we have a mental body, we have an emotional body, we have the physical body, we have the energetic body, we have the soul, just for now, the spiritual body. So anywhere that those aren't in alignment with who we are is the work that we need to do for self.
Mm-hmm.
So our whole being is constantly letting us know. And you know, as doctors, that you can work with people, have two people the same symptoms, the same way you're treating them, yet one rises and heals and the other stays.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not including the wellness of our emotional body, of our mental body, of our spiritual, energetic body with this physical healing, it will only go so far, because everything is the being healing.
Yeah.
That's right.
So in practicality, what we've witnessed over the years is some people's pain body is much bigger than others.
Mm-hmm.
And they can have a completely connected soul, mental, heart, and everything. They just happen in this lifetime to carry more pain. Their pain body is bigger. So what we let people know, wherever you're spending your energy, whatever practice you do, is it bringing you more in your heart?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not bringing you in your heart, then reconsider where your energy is going.
Mm-hmm.
We're going through a time in humanity where we're coming from the mental body, going into the heart space, the inner being space. So we will, as human beings, always have the mind as our filter. So a lot of times what can happen, especially in spirituality, is people can get stuck in the mental body,
Okay.
bypassing
Yeah.
emotion. The emotion that we see in the world that we first dip into is the pain body of our inner being, of the planet, community, lineage.
Mm-hmm.
What happens with emotion as you ride with it, as you work with it as part of everything else, what happens with it is you go into the higher heart. So the emotion moves a lot faster. It takes you on a ride, so to speak. It dives you deep. You move through it, just how you went into your son. He
Mm-hmm.
transformed. He went from his emotional pain body, filtered through his mind, through the pain body, and then he went all the way through what was under the pain was sadness and disconnect, all the way back into reconnection
Mm-hmm.
and himself awareness. So the older we get, the more filters we have, the more protection we have around the heart. So Bill already talked about it, over loyal, over giving. I know this already.
Overachieving.
Overachieving.
Mm-hmm.
The
Pleasing.
need to be right.
Mm-hmm.
Fear, right? So as you know, fear, we're still part of the very primitive aspect of the mind in fear. Flight, fright, freeze. Fight, flight. No, fight, flight, freeze. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. Took me a minute. And so that is in our nervous system everywhere, in every cell, and it's ready to be activated, as you know.
Yeah.
So when we are first feeling emotion, those three come in to protect you, because it gets triggered in the mind, and the mind wants to protect you from the unknown, because that's its job. It wants to know. That's the mind's job, what the mind does. And so the moment you start to feel the wave of that emotion wanting to take you for someone new, and not so new, but just to really play it out, is one of those attributes will come up. Freeze, so you're in a conversation with someone you love, Bill's angry, I might go into my freeze position. Or some people would describe it as numb or disconnected, unpresent. Or I might want to fight him. That's not what I said. Or
we don't do that ever.
We know that. It's just us.
Yeah.
Or I might go into run. I'm going for a walk now. Right?
Can I come with you? No.
No.
Yeah.
I need some time. And then coming back to breathing it, the emotions hitting, breathing it,
Mhm.
Nourishing whatever the 4-year-old is moving through, nourishing, feeling the emotion, coming forward in the very present moment to moment breath, and saying, wow, Bill, when you said that, I felt the tone. Whew, it hurt my heart. I really wanted to pull back, but I'm hear you. I
Mhm.
apologize. I know if I'm not being in truth, right? I apologize. Or could we speak about this in another way? Because
Mhm.
how we're speaking about it right now, it's really hard for me to be present with you.
Mhm.
So that's just kind of a
Mm-hmm.
demonstration in relationship.
I love that.
Yeah.
One of the things that the reasons why Sonya is so grateful for you, Bill, is that you've helped me really understand some of the just the innate roles that men and women can play. And so I think like taking some of the teachings and let's let's talk a little bit about sort of defining some of those roles. And it doesn't mean like this could be masculine energy, feminine energy, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for people to understand just where we need to operate from or a lens or a position so that we can be there to support our partner and know people listening, those same energies are within us that they're going to play out in a certain kind of way.
Yeah.
But
The yin
let's
and the yang.
the yin and yang. So
Mhm.
if you guys could teach us a little bit more about that masculine feminine energy and sort of those identities that can be really supportive in a relationship, that'd be great.
Yeah. So this is sort of from all our journey personally. This is what we've been shown over time, over and over again. This is also, I do want to mention a resource for people.
Go ahead.
Yeah. If you look into David Data's work, so
Yeah.
he studied that a lot, and there's a book, and it was out for a long time. It's called Divine Communion. Is a really good book. The Way to Superior Man is a really good book.
Mhm.
So these are like beginning steps. We, in the very beginning for us, when we first met 15 years ago, we spent time with Satchian
Mhm.
Raja.
Raja, and he was a really beautiful landing place for us and a communication that was new to us. And then over time, everything has evolved with us, through us, and now has the essence and our essence and our lived experience in it, what we communicate to people.
Mhm.
So, Bill is quite masculine and I'm quite feminine. So for me, I still have the masculine, of course. We both have both. Um, for me, over time, what happened in my life since I was a little girl, my mom raised and supported 4 children between 4 and 13. My dad was in an accident, so he was handicapped. So right away, I learned to take care of myself. Right away, I became strong. It's protector, right? I
Mhm.
became strong and didn't want to be a burden. And so I learned really quickly over the next few years to be super mega independent. So I took on this masculine expression. It was in me. And then I ran with it
Mhm.
right through my 20s and 30s. And it brought me a lot of success in work. It brought me a lot of success in getting things done, in the doing.
Mhm.
And over time, what it did is actually also simultaneously start to squeeze the feminine in me.
Yeah.
So the grace, the gentleness, the tenderness. It took me a lot of years to actually cry in front of people. In my early years, I would cry in a closet because I judged tears and
Mhm.
I judged feeling so deeply.
Mhm.
So I spent a lot of time distracting myself from feeling so deeply. And so it took a lot of time, like a long time in my life and through many different journeys, to come to a place to allow myself to come into my feminine more. And I got to a place where I realized it was my responsibility as a woman to nourish that feminine.
Mhm.
And thus, in raising 2 sons, I wanted to represent an open, compassionate, loving, feminine woman to my son. So there was a lot of motivators in there.
Mm.
So when the masculine's too strong or it's not integrated fully, say if a woman is like Patricia, when she's on set, sometimes she's in charge of sometimes 100 people that she's working with, and she has to be in that masculine, get it done part. She'll come home in that masculine, and I'm in my masculine. So if we're both in the masculine, if you watch masculine men over a period of time, if they're playing a game, eventually there'll be a fight. You know, I mean, it'll start pushing each other, right? It's normal in that because it's pushing. So that happens in relationship. There has to be polarity, the feminine, masculine energy for love to occur.
Mm.
And so for myself, even in one of, I'm still, you know, the balance for me is when I embrace the divine feminine. And I had such a judgment. If I embrace that, what will happen to my sexuality?
Yeah.
Was my biggest concern. And this lady says, Bill, what is it that you want? You know, is there a symbol in your life? And for some reason, I picked the Star of David. Everybody's heard of that. And it started swirling and moving. And she said, what's wrong? I says, I am sick and tired of crying and feeling so much because I'm a man and I don't want this. And she says, well, what if that was your gift? I says, well, would have never thought of that in 1,000 years. And she says, breathe into it and allow yourself to just let it go and to drop. And I dropped into the arms of Mother Earth like a newborn child. And I wept and wept and wept because I had never felt so grounded, so safe in my life. And there was a surrender when I got up. I felt like I was glued to the earth. I felt so grounded. And in that place, when I embraced that part of me, it opened up my intuition, because when we first started doing the work, they were always happy when Patricia was there. But when I showed up, you know, the women kind of shut down a little bit because there's a man in the room, you know, because of all whatever's happened in the past. And as I embraced that, they felt the change right away. I said, Bill, you feel a little bit more relaxed. Yeah, well, you know, it looks good, you know.
Mm.
And so in that place of embracing both sides of myself, I can still be a little bit in the masculine at times because I like to finish on time. Patricia's lags a little bit in that.
I'm in flow.
She's yes. And so when we've held, you know, like we've been there since 9:30 and we finish at 7, I want to finish at 7 o'clock. So I've held presence and I'm ready to go. That's just me. And I didn't realize she had sent an email to me saying, Bill, we're going to go to 7:30. So I abruptly, and it was all women that day, and one man other than me. And I says, could we finish? She says, well, Bill, is there something wrong? I says, no, I just feel it's time to close. And then she says, okay, well, by the way, I did give you an email and I don't know if you opened it.
No, I said that later.
Yeah, later. I didn't realize. She says, you really scared the woman when you were so abrupt.
So let me back up again.
Yeah.
Because you flowed into one. So, you know, when we're giving our live retreats, in-person retreats, you know, God works out stuff in us, obviously, right there in the moment. It is very real, this work. So think of everyday relationship and then times that by 1,000. And you both have led retreats together, so you can relate to that. So in our experience of a recent retreat, I had let him know the time. We had talked about it and reminded him that the times had changed, but he kind of got used to the old times from the year before. So at 7 during retreat, he was starting his stuff going on. So I just kept flowing with the flow, watching the clock. And I finished at 7:30 and we finished. And then, you know, and so that all happened. And then after everyone left, I said, hey, by the way, look at what I sent you. And he was like, oh, no, I thought it was 7:30. And yeah, and then I said, I just wanted you to know that when you said it and that energy came out, I felt women, their hearts were open, and I felt them go back. So Bill, because of his willingness, and this is a very human experience, is that the next morning, he actually apologized to everyone.
Well, I started with my wife first. We sat eye to eye, and I said it from my heart, my apologies. And as I was speaking it, the women in the room started to cry. And so Spirit told me to look in each woman's eye and ask for forgiveness for each one. And it was even in my imperfection and my own stuff coming up in that moment, the messiness of it, Spirit used it anyway. And 3 of the women came up and said, they hugged me and grabbed me and said, Bill, this is the first time a man has ever apologized to me. And how you apologized to your wife was so beautiful. So there's that place when I realized that I was off base, I said, oh my God, I've got to clean this up tomorrow, right away. So, there's that, we hold the banks of the flow of the feminine as the masculine, and it's so important now I feel like the feminine's held the space for so long on the planet. It's time for men to come in and do their part. And when men do their part, they are so blown away when they see men come together. I've held 2 men in my arms, weeping on my shoulders, weeping with them. And they just, oh my God, we've never seen this, that men actually do have that ability to love. We're the container of consciousness. Yeah.
So, like I'll do my women's retreats or women's circles. Bill will do his men's circles online. He's starting to do retreats. And yet we love still leading together with men and women. As Bill said, when men heal, a lot of women have never experienced men in open-hearted. They've only experienced the contraction of men. A lot of men have never witnessed women fully doing the work, fully open-hearted, not needing or wanting anything, because it works both ways, right?
Yeah.
And then brother to brother, never being in a space where they've been able to be held brother to brother. That itself, beyond the other work that happens, is really beautiful.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, we've had a similar experience because I was just doing the women's nights and the women's retreats. And then the last 2 years we've run co-ed, and the healing that happens is profound because you see the play of the polarities, and you see where the gaps are, you see where the healing needs to happen. And you're just facilitating it, but everybody's healing or helping the other heal from the traumas, the triggers, and all of it.
And to be a witness to it is, like as you said, is so healing, because it gives you permission to go, oh, it's okay not to play out a role that I've always known. It's okay to actually operate in a different kind of way. So even, for a man to see other women with a similar story that say your partner has, and you see the depth of their pain because maybe their partner has never felt safe enough, right?
Yes.
To express themselves in the kind of way that they needed to. And then you see that happening, and you see the men shifting, the women shifting, because they're having the exact same experience of seeing another man be vulnerable and going, oh, that is possible. And so this is why community is so important, so that we can all learn like our natural state. Like you said, it's like we don't have to attain anything, it's already within, but we do have to be witness to this reality that's all already there, and for it to be okay, right? Because like in that old male model, even in the old female model of like, put your head down, do the housework, and play that role, and for the man to be the man, come in, don't talk about your emotions, that whole scenario is getting like a fast track in healing right now in this time where like the family unit is evolving,
Oh, for sure.
isolation. So we were just doing a talk the other day, just talking about the cocooning aspect and the transformation that comes from being in that cocoon. And retreats are like that. They're little cocoons, little spaces for people to reflect possibility of one another.
And I hope people hear from this that these roles that we speak about with like feminine and masculine, it doesn't diminish the work that's happened over the years with women, fighting for their rights, or these. It's not it's not even at that level. It's beyond that.
Yes.
It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's like you were saying, that feminine aspect that we all have is it's the softness, it's the allowing, it's the receiving, whereas that masculine aspect that we have is the doing, is the getter done, is the container that, you know, creates that security. And we all have it within, and we have roles that we play with each other to bring pieces out, and one can be the other when one is shifting. So
Yeah.
it's like we learn from, like, when you look at the yin and yang sign, you see like one is in the other. There's
Yes.
no separation. So I
Yeah.
hope people really hear that this isn't about being submissive as a woman or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's like you are going to be in your power when you're sitting in your grace and in your softness. If anything.
Exactly. And it is powerful. And it is actually what the earth is calling for
Mhm.
everyone to sit in that softness and grace.
Mhm.
Because there's stuff that has to get done here now on the planet.
That's
Like
right.
we're past playing or hiding or pretending. Like
Yeah.
it's that serious. So
That's
for
right.
stuff to get done here in the magnitude that's being invited to, we must come to get to know self. Get to know self here, get to know self this, and get to know self with another, whoever the other is,
Yeah.
across the planet or right here. And believe me, when people choose to go in their inner, when they choose to transform through emotional, through their heart, when they open their heart into that well that's available and they truly feel it for themselves, it flashes across the planet and into the universe. Like it is more sacred and bigger than we'll give ourselves credit to often.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in closing, one thing that's really struck a lot of people in what's going on in the world today is our mortality and the vulnerability that this physical body is, you know, coming to terms with, I guess. For the two of you and the work that you're doing, you know, if tomorrow was it, what is the imprint that you want to leave in this world? Like, what is something that you just really hope people really begin to feel?
Good
Don't
question,
waste
by the way.
time. Don't waste time with the things that don't matter, and really love the people that are in your present moment, your family, your friends, your children. And for me, being 73, I'm facing that more and more every day. And I just, for myself, is I want to make a difference and be able to create a safer, cleaner world for my children, grandchildren, and the people I love. And in the end result, I thought, when in my last breath, I will miss all the people I loved. A lot.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Didn't know that was coming in.
I was actually waiting for it. I knew we were all going to cry at some point.
Well, it's a witness.
You don't have to call us the Clums, you can call us the Criers.
The criers.
It's what happens when love opens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we love so deeply. Yeah, I feel it in you guys. Wow. I'm so excited to see you and Sonya, what you're doing, what you're bringing to the planet. It just, every time I see you guys, say, wow, look at them go. Look at this new generation, what they're opening here. They're doing the work, they're working, they're raising their children. The value that you guys are creating is just incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You guys have been huge teachers for us. So we're grateful to you both for everything you've brought into this planet, and you continue to do that. And because tomorrow will go on, right? Like we've got more work to do, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of that, we want to hear Patricia's. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, the moment that question was asked, you know, that's actually a question we bring to ourselves often. How deep is my yes? If this was my last moment, truly. And in truth, we never know when that moment's going to be our last breath. So for me, I feel this incredible awareness of that in the last couple of years, and this incredible love I have for people. And I feel that our legacy is already happening. We see it in your eyes. We see it in others' eyes. I feel like we've seen glimpses of it. And for me, it's to know I've loved fully. I've loved, loved, loved right up to the last breath. And for me, if I'm the one that holds forgiveness for whatever, I'll be the one. I'll be the one to hold forgiveness wherever forgiveness requires to be held. And I'll be the one that says sorry, and I'll be the one that doesn't have to be right for love's sake. So yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. I always feel like I grow, I evolve just being around you, amazing humans. Thank you so much, from our family to yours. You guys are incredible human beings.
Do I have a really quick, just a little quick story?
Of course.
So I was writing like in my journal about, I'm turning 55 this year.
Yay.
So in my 50s, I was writing in my journal about, why am I just seeing this now? Why am I just feeling this incredible love now? Like now, why not when I was 20? Why not when I was 30? You know, because what you come into awareness is times in life that you distracted self from this. And so what came through in my writing, you know, I was asking why now that I have wrinkles and gray hair and my body is not the energy of a 20-year-old, you know, all those questions. And what I heard was that our gray hair, our wrinkles, our age is actually the invitation for people like yourselves and the next generation and the next, that all of you, especially in North America, have a place to come home to. Because there's been so much in North America about not getting older. What, there is a way to age, as Bill said, that opens us up even more. So I just wanted to speak that, because if you're 30 and feel discouraged, if you're 40, or if you're 50, 60, 70, 20, 18, hang in there. Really just beginning, and the discouragement is wanting to take you into deeper place within. It's not a stop sign. It's a come this way, come this way. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for holding that space for all of us.
Yeah.
Because we are missing our elders, and you guys are doing a beautiful job.
Thank you.
So true. So we want to be able, everyone to be able to find you guys, what you're doing. And obviously there's no in-person workshops going on right now, but I know you guys are working with people one-on-one, like very steadily. So please share what's the best place for people to get in touch with you.
Yeah, so we're adapting, you know, it's beautiful about being human. And I know that our invitation is for people to go to our website, evolutionoftheheart.com, and sign up on our newsletter. What we're putting together, and there's also, if they haven't worked with us yet, we do a 20-minute, they can sign up there. And that's online Zoom, where they can meet us and ask the deeper questions, because some people here will be stirred. Yes, we still offer sessions. Through the newsletter, we're going to start offering more of the online gatherings. So we have more dates coming up. We've already done 3, where it's by donation. So we want men and women from all economic positions to be able to join us in gathering. And there's usually 30 to 40 people online. And so we take people through a meditation, and we work with 1 or 2 people so everyone can feel it. I'm being called to do a woman's online, a few events. Bill will be doing a man's. Yeah, Bill will be doing a man's.
Perfect.
And then we're being called to do a few 4-hour online for the deeper work for men and women.
Awesome.
And so we'll put that out, and
That'll
we'll
be
let,
limited to 8.
yeah, the
So that we
deeper
can work with everybody.
is 8 people, and we'll just have a lot of dates available.
Okay.
So yeah, and we're gonna keep it in a place where we want to have it available for many, because we feel that this work right now is really important for all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll put all those links in the
That's
in the notes, and love you both so much.
Love you too.
Yeah.
Yes.
You too.
No,
Thank you so
Many
much.
blessings.
Good to see you.
Have a fabulous day.
Yeah,
Hug
you
your little
too.
boys for us.
Oh, we will.
One of my boys is across Canada, the other in Kelowna, safe and well. But I really miss that.
I
I
know,
know.
that physical hug. Yeah.
No social distancing going on within the
No,
house. Yeah.
Not with the kiddos.
No.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I
thank
love
you so
guys.
much.
All right.
Many
Bye-bye.
blessings. Bye.